Welcome back. Today we're going to look at a series of clips from On Her Majesty's Secret Service, 1969. It is a Bond film. Now, if I just bring you up to speed, we've had, I don't want to get lost in it, but we've had the whole Sean Connery run of all of his films, and then he famously dropped out, said, I'm not doing anymore. They did a worldwide search to find a new Bond, and they found George Lazenby, who did one film, and then for a range of reasons, he sort of said, I'm not doing anymore. He thought Bond was done, and he pulled out. This film is massively maligned by a lot of people. Some people think differently. Let's just get into it. Now, what I love about this beginning part is they've got to introduce Bond. So Bond's been off screen for I feel like a year or two or whatever, and they've got to reintroduce him. So we start with Moneypenny and M.
Inquiries all negative, sir.
The PM wants to be informed personally when we find 007.
I've got big claims, by the way, coming up. Should have hooked that at the beginning. So Bond's just following this chick.
Yep.
So the anticipation. Who's Bond? Who's it going to be? We've had Sean Connery, you know.
Using a rifle scope to have a perv.
So the Bond girl in this is Dame Diana Rigg. Total A-lister. Incredible beauty and a fine actress. She looks fabulous. So she's immediately one of the best of all the Bond women. So I've cut out a bit here. Basically, he runs in. She goes to kill herself. He runs in and rescues her. First time we see Bond.
So, still haven't seen him yet.
No, not
My
really.
name's Bond. James Bond. Miss,
Don't move, Mr. Bond.
Okay, so Bond kicks their asses, and then this line.
This never happened to the other fella.
And then we get into the title sequence, which is fantastic. I need you to watch this. These heavies have picked up Bond, taking him to the Baghdad.
Master! Do not kill me, Mr. Bond. At least not until we've had a drink. Then if you wish...
So, lots to talk about there. I just love that fight sequence. I'd love to get did you feel a bit of something? I've got some random scenes here. I'm trying to convince you that this might be the greatest James Bond of them all.
So this is one of the few that I've watched.
Oh no.
Yes. So I've seen this one, and I saw this one at a Bond retrospective with the man, Lazenby, doing a talk about it.
I remember.
So I've got some good background of this one as well. So yes, this is one of the few early Bonds that I've actually already seen.
Okay.
And, enjoyed the parts that were there to be enjoyed. Not so much kind of this section.
Look at this set.
The set's great, but then his completely dubbed Scottish accent.
Oh, do you mean when he's the other guy? When
he's pretending to be Scottish and they have to dub someone else's voice over the top of him?
Yes.
Because, for those who don't know, George Lazenby, Australian, but was not an actor. He was a model. So he had the look for Bond, but he was not an actor. And, I guess he was serviceable to be Bond and put on an English accent, but not good enough to do the Scottish.
Look at this.
Well, actually, this time around watching it, what's striking is how great it looks. So even just that first scene with Moneypenny and M in the office, beautifully lit, beautifully done, beautiful looking 35mm film, looks great.
So Peter Hunt was an editor on the previous films, and he directed this, and that's why that fight scene is as good as it is. It's almost proto-Bourne identity.
Yeah, it is.
In the way he's... you look at the Roger Moore stuff, it's so wide shot, him doing the worst kung fu nonsense, and then this is just like an editor saying, no, all we need is these pieces, let's zoom in and give it a feeling, give it a sense of, make it visceral, He's...
Yeah. Well, no, yeah, it did. It was very Bourne-esque, that fight scene, which is, surprising.
Look at this guy. One of the bad guys here, going into one of the, into the grinder.
Very Fargo.
Yeah. This is late in the film. Roger Deakins could have shot this.
Yeah.
There's no scene in the office that's this dark later on, until we get to Daniel Craig.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, great looking film. Yeah, look at that. That could have been out of Sicario. Or something.
Yes. All the Dennis Villeneuve. Look, there's so many times in this where she comes into light, Diana Rigg.
Yeah. And for our younger viewers, Olenna Tyrell, I think, was her character name from Game of Thrones. That's where you know her from.
Yes.
But also, when you look at her here, you go, perfect family casting to play against, what's the name, Natalie Dormer or something, who plays her granddaughter. They 100% look related.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just, because I've been obviously going through this Bond stuff lately, and we did get some big news.
Yes, I don't know about this news.
Okay, so the news that, I've sort of buried the lead. Basically, Amazon Studios have taken over creative control of James Bond.
Right.
So there was a bit of a battle going on between... Well, I say a battle. It was just negotiations between the people who... Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, who, did all the... The Broccoli family have been there since the beginning, and Michael G. Wilson's written a lot of the best ones, and he's been there. They brought Daniel Craig in, and they've treated it basically like a family business, and they've really fossicked over every decision. But what we've got now is they've stepped back and said they've obviously gotten something out of it. They say they're sort of somewhat involved, but not really. That their statements have basically said we're stepping back to do other things, and they're letting Amazon take over. I got to just cut to it. This is dreadful news. I mean, I got to be in two minds about these things. I mean, a lot of our conversations, unfortunately, are going to devolve into things ain't what they used to be. I'm trying not to be that guy, but on the more positive side, the reason I guess I'm showing On Her Majesty's Secret Service is because this is magnificent, and it will always be magnificent. And I think it is one of the greatest James Bond movies. I'm now convinced of it. Like, I think this is just like a masterpiece. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. I think it hurts that George Lazenby only got one shot at it. Like, I actually get an emotional reaction. I remember having it at the cinema. I mean, you wouldn't have felt that way, but when I watched it at the cinema, at the end, I think I was a mess, because it's a beautiful, understated scene at the end where I don't want to spoil it. Anyway, so I should just be happy with what we've got, and that when you get something good like this or Blade Runner 2049, like you get something good and
Yeah.
you go, oh, I don't care what happens. I don't care about the background or how terrible things are going to be or what the new regime's going to do because we've got that. We've got it. Should I focus on that more?
I mean, I think so, but it's so hard. It's getting, well, hopefully it'll start getting easier, but it's been getting hard to do. So, a lot of the times when the wife and I kind of, after our daughter's gone to sleep, we sit down to try and watch something. I just don't like a lot of the stuff that's come out of like the last 5 years. I can't be bothered with it. Like it's too much of a, like, so many times something will look good and you start it and you go, oh, this is kind of crappy. And then I've been just going back and rewatching a whole bunch of 90s stuff. So I'm not sure how much of that has to do with being middle-aged and
not having
the
much
typical
time as
thing.
well.
But also the typical thing of, like, back in my day and nostalgia and just idealising the past.
I take that point. I do think that we are placed well to talk about in a very clear-eyed way about the way screen media has changed and there's much more of it, and we've got peak TV, we've got all these different streamers doing stuff. The way the streamers do it is very different to the way Hollywood studios used to do it. You just look at the way that talent is dispersed. I mean, it's a numbers game. Basically, There used to be, for example, all that Chicago series on TV, so Chicago Fire, Chicago Med, all of that. Their big trick is they get one cinema guy, Oliver Platt, on Chicago Med. Whereas you would recognise Oliver Platt from movies as one of 20 people in the movie, and he would be playing a lawyer or he would be playing the best friend or something. He's fantastic. He's great. You're always happy to see him. He's engaging and wonderful. On Chicago Med, he's basically what you look forward to.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And so all of those shows, whereas we're used to show a John Grisham book being made and directed by Sidney Pollack, starring Tom Cruise, and from there, everyone down the line, Gene Hackman is in it also. Jeannie Tripplehorn's pretty good, but all of the secondaries are heavy hitters.
Just proper character actors.
Yes.
Not leading roles, but like everyone in those minor roles. You just kind of, like, every face, you just go, proper.
And the cinematographer who's brought on board is top notch.
Yep.
The sets are incredible. It's people in rooms talking, but it looks $1 million.
Yep.
So
production design, costume design, that's all top tier.
So, and I think Mel Gibson's complained about this. It's shooting schedules. So he goes, I used to have. He wasn't down in the dumps about it. He's moving with the times. He just wants to. He was talking about Flight Risk, his new movie. Basically, he's saying, oh yeah, I used to have like 100 days to shoot something and 200 horses or whatever, like Braveheart or whatever. And he's like, now they want this in like, really a matter of weeks is what they want it to be shot. They want it quick, and God knows what resources he just wouldn't have had a lot of access to live resources. So I think you have to be realistic about the way things have changed. It's happened very quickly, and it's going to change again with AI and, things like that. But maybe bringing it back to Bond, I think that this, I've just got to focus more on what we've had, because I've got to be real about things as well. Like, I'm not going to glamorize the Daniel Craig era. Like that Casino Royale is great. We can agree on that.
I really like Casino Royale.
It's maybe too long, but it's good.
I'm alright with it. And of course,
the Venice stuff?
Casino Royale and Skyfall.
Skyfall's good.
The Venice stuff, no, it does start to drag. Look, I love any movie that has me hanging out in Europe.
Yes.
I'll just go with it.
Sure.
So it's like, the story kind of dies off a bit, but Venice is awesome.
It is awesome.
So I'll just look at it and just kind of,
and enjoy it. Yeah. But look, Casino Royale is good, but quickly devolves after that. I mean, Skyfall, it was good. But maybe what we're talking about here is Amazon. The fact that there's not a key creative that's been named, it's just the studio. The reason you like Skyfall is because of Sam Mendes.
Yes.
So let's be real. And there's some very strong writing talent there too. I think Paul Haggis, and I forget who the other person was. Neil Purvis, maybe? Don't test me.
Don't know about the writers. But, Sam Mendes is also bringing on Deakins.
Yes, Roger Deakins. Yes. And Thomas Newman?
Yep.
Great. So a lot of talent.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So a lot of talent, and in fact, the talent they kicked off one of the films was big. They Danny Boyle left one of these movies at some point, so they're kicking off Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you can't glamorize it. It's been a bit of a mixed bag, and I don't know why I care about Bond so much. Maybe it's tied up now with a whole bunch of stuff like, I just like them as films. They're travel logs and a type of idealized masculinity in a way, and it's a male fantasy, I suppose. But also, my dad, it links us to the past. It's such an old series now. It's like 60-something years old or whatever, and my dad was a huge fan, and a lot of guys my dad's age, it sort of links me, as a millennial with them, and there's a lineage there. There's something that's being passed down. Like we can talk about it, and we can talk about what do we think about Roger Moore and, George Lazenby. I think my dad used to, I don't think he was a big fan of the George Lazenby one. I wish he was still around. I wish I could talk to him about it and say, Dad, like, it's the best one. It's probably the best one. Do you know what I mean? Like it's and I think he's a magnificent Bond. And I got to say, obviously, I'm really proud that he's Australian. And you hear his accent. You hear it every now and then.
Yeah.
Every now and then. Well, does it slip? I don't know. He's got one of those mishmash Mel McPherson accent, where it's there. Mel Gibson's got it too, every now and then you go, hey, that's us, so I don't know. I think it's a dazzling movie, and, it's made up for this dreadful news of Amazon, which I hope it works out, but I'm almost certain that it won't. I don't think they're going to pick the type of people that we think are good to pull this off. They're going to want creative control. It's going to be light and bright. There's going to be, they're going to do money penny spin-offs and create a cinematic universe and dilute it. We don't want to get into the business of talking about Star Wars and reacting to all of that hate-watching stuff that people do online. But you've got to be real. The fact of the matter is, I find Star Wars completely unwatchable now.
Oh, 100%.
Even the stuff I like is unwatchable because of what they've done. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so overexposed and so not on the money that I don't want to watch I don't even want to show my kid the originals because of it.
Well, to me, the biggest red flag is cinematic universe.
Yes.
So whenever you whip that out, to me, that's the ultimate death blow. Because even if you want to start arguing about Star Wars had an expanded universe even with the originals, that wasn't with cinema though. That was all books and shitty TV specials and all stuff you could easily and very happily ignore because it was all garbage.
And it's ephemera. It's not meant to last the ages. The fact of the matter is, we put every year that the Library of Congress in the US picks one film a year to put in the archives. That means when Threads happens and we blow up the world, there'll be a copy of Gone with the Wind and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and Wizard of Oz and what? Star Wars 1977, unspecialized, on reels in the National, in the Library of Congress. Okay, so when the aliens at the end of our AI come down, they'll pick that out and they'll go, "Geez, this is a good movie." It won't be called Episode 4. That won't be at the beginning. It'll be called Star Wars.
Yeah,
and that's it. Now I'm such a psycho about it. Now that's what my reality is. I'm happy to say goodbye to even the good Empire Strikes Back if it means that we can only have that first one. If I had to pick now, I'm like, I just want the first one. I don't want, and I'm so pure about it. I want unspecialized. I don't want any of the other stuff. So we're down a rabbit hole a little bit.
We've strayed way from the topic.
No, well, we had, but I guess, but with Amazon, what we know is going to happen is they're going to add water, make terrible creative decisions, which you can imagine what they would be. We don't need to go into them.
Well, I guess that's the thing. I fear that they're going to turn it into one, dilute the crap out of it, and then just the spin-offs for the sake of spin-offs, not because of there being some sort of artistic and creative vision behind any of this, and also Didn't they refer to it as content?
Content, yeah. So there's two comments that were made, and look, comments like this, they spread like wildfire. Basically, Barbara Broccoli, the old head of the Bond franchise, she objected to someone on the Amazon side allegedly referring to James Bond as content, which I think she's absolutely right to take offense at that.
Well, I mean, what we're doing now, sat in my living room with our one camera, this is content.
Speak for yourself.
Bond should not be content.
No, it shouldn't. It as we've said in private discussions, it's the picking of the actor and the unveiling of the actor is a global event.
Yeah, that.
And
like speculation, who's it going to be? Who's going to be the next Bond? Arguments about who should it be, and all. Yeah, that was like big news.
Well, the other comment that we've talked about is allegedly came from the Amazon side as well. Is someone saying, "Well, I don't," and we're all picturing the same person, but they're saying, "Oh, I don't think James Bond's a hero." Now, that is the sort of negative posture that a lot of us find very troubling. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, don't you love this character? Don't you love his flaws and his foibles and how challenging he is? And isn't his anti-hero status, which has been established from the first film and first book, by the way, like saying it like it's profound, like I don't think he's a hero. You could say, well, yeah, he's an anti-hero, and that's a thing too, by the way.
Well, that's the only out I will give whoever made this quote. Maybe they were cut off. Maybe they said...
Maybe it never happened.
I don't think
what I'm alarmed at.
Well, also, I don't think he's a hero. I think he's an anti-hero or something. Or I think he's more complicated than that. I'm like...
But hopefully they've said it with a glee. Do you know what I mean?
Like and not disdain for the property they're about to embark on making. Because if you don't think Bond's a hero, if you disagree with him, if you think he's a pig man, that's perfectly valid. That's a perfectly valid opinion. Don't be one of the creatives involved in making it.
This is what I don't understand is that we've heard this a bit, in the last, it feels like 10 or so years, whatever, where there's a class of person that gets involved in a franchise that they don't seem to like.
Or actively dislike.
They actively dislike it. And I find that to be, I mean, if you work... I'm picking on Amazon. I'm sure there's a lot of awesome people. In fact, I love that movie with Michael B. Jordan, that Tom Clancy movie which came out.
Is that good?
It was good.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good actually. Really good action. There's some cheap stuff in it here and there, but overall I was like, oh man, this is good. There's some really cool stuff in it. I think the Sicario 2 guy directed it.
Right.
And he's good.
Not as good as
in a limited.
Not as good as Denis, but
no.
Still good.
I'm not going to pick on Amazon. I'm sure there's a lot of great people doing, what their best, but we've got to challenge some people who. I mean, at that first meeting, if someone said that, I mean, maybe they're too higher up, but you should be able to say, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't be working on James Bond.
Well, that's what I mean.
Aren't there a bunch of other properties that you could be?
Well, create another piece of art. Do something you're passionate about. Why cynically go into something that's it's just not going to be good.
But this is the thing: is that Hollywood and whatever we're going into now, that is it's morphing into, has always been run on passion. It's not a money thing. There has been money made, but there's a lot of our favorite men and women have made their passion projects for not much money. James Cameron talks about that all the time. And he talks about not getting any money for Titanic.
Well, even the reason why Lazenby didn't do another Bond is because Easy Rider had just come out. Yeah. And he was convinced that Men in Suits was over.
Yes.
And the 70s and people with long hair and leather jackets and bikes, that was the next big hit.
Yes.
And Easy Rider was a huge hit.
It was.
Made for zero money and a complete passion project. And I mean, it did change cinema, not to the extent that it didn't actually kick Bond off the planet.
No.
The two were able to then coexist. But yeah, that was not made for money. That was a passion project, and it made a bunch of money after the fact.
I suppose what I'm growing tired of, and you can see it Sam Mendes did a lot of work on Skyfall during the writer's strike, I believe, when there was a writer's strike on, and I think they did a lot of secret writing, and basically made that film next level. They brought it up to this whole other level. They didn't do that for the money. He's got money. He did it for passion, and he did it because he's an amazing artist. And studios, the best studios in the past, I think, have always been headed by singular creatives. We talk about like difficult big gamblers like Dino De Laurentiis, or who brought Blue Velvet to us. Or you even think about Mel Brooks, right? He's a producer. Who did he bring us? He brought us David Lynch doing The Elephant Man. Do you know what I mean?
Mel Brooks produced that?
Absolutely.
Jesus. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, these are people with visions, but it goes all the way back to the heads of the studios, people, and, we need big, bold, singular creatives who've got enough power behind them to ram through creative decisions, because cowardice, creative conservatism, and ideology, weird ideologies on both sides, right and left, make for bad art. So you need someone who's like an old school, speculator with a lot of money and a great picker of talent.
Well, I mean, like, ideology can be fine, I think, but not if it's at the expense of the art.
Absolutely.
So ideology before art doesn't work.
No.
Art with ideology does.
Yes.
So even, something like the Barbie movie, which I have zero interest in.
Sure.
And I've heard, some potentially biased and hateful people talking about how it just devolves, like the back end devolves into like hard politics. But clearly they got the art side down first, and that movie was a raving success, and good on it. Fine.
Let's be real. In art, ideology, or rather, it's ideology and politics. They need to have asterisks next to them. So basically, I don't care about them, and often, if you're a good filmmaker, that's all that matters. You know what I mean? So you can watch Dirty Harry, which has been accused of being fascist. It's the same with Death Wish, right? Like these are very, very right wing ideas of law and order, and like we need to clamp down and just shoot, criminals basically. But the thing is, they are well made films, and and that's great. You watch them and you get totally wrapped up in those stories. I can think of a million left wing examples as well. It doesn't matter which side you're on. It's when you are a bad filmmaker or a bad storyteller, a bad TV maker or whatever, that your message seems to detract from the story. I don't care about it. I'll go along with you on it with any idea. You can present me with any idea on screen, really, as long as it's well made. I'll go with it. You know what I mean?
You'll at least give it a go. You even if you disagree with the idea, you can still think about it, be challenged by it, ponder it, and also appreciate the art for what it is. So, like, it's a bit of an odd example, but I with the band ABBA. So, especially when I was younger,
Go on.
I had zero interest in that sort of light pop, zero. But even as a young metalhead, which I was, I could listen to ABBA and realize, of this genre, which I don't personally like, this is the best example of it. It is a great example of something I just don't like.
Yeah.
But I could give them, I could give them those props and go, yeah, if this is your bag, ABBA's the fucking band. So even if you maybe if you disagree with the message, I still think you can watch a piece of art like a movie, if we can still call movies art, and just go, great film.
Well, sorry about the ringing phones in that. We just had some technical issues there. If you're still watching after 30 minutes, it means you are a massive fan. Thank you very much. But yeah, sorry about the ringing phones, and just want to wrap it up because we also, I think we might have run out of.
Well, I've not used this camera in this sort of format before, but you can't have a clip longer than 29 minutes and 50 seconds, which I wasn't aware of. And in every other context, I would be aware of because I'd be on the other side of the camera, not just having it pointed at me. But
now we know. So
now we know.
Just to wrap up, I think I just wanted to ask you whether you think that James Bond under Amazon is going to be, if it's going to all work out.
I severely doubt it.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be no good and disappointing, and nothing like on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is a masterpiece, and I'm going to watch it again tonight.